Hello and welcome to Where the Bush is Burning. I'm your host, Tom Tice, and each week we gather together. We have a conversation about Christ. I appreciate those of you who watch. I appreciate the fact that you find it useful and that you join us week after week. And thank you very much for, especially to those of you who respond. We hear some things from you, so we appreciate you as well. Today, we're going to look into something that has burdened me, I think, over the last week, particularly. It's burdened me longer than that, but I've run into several situations over the last week or so where this has come up again and again. And in contemplating Christ and his heart, it brings me to consider and to hopefully relay to you the heart of Christ with regard to those who are marginalized. Uh, there are a number of people that we will encounter in the world who are what we would call marginalized people. Now, they may be marginalized for various reasons. Sometimes they're marginalized because they are strangers in a strange land. They're people who are foreign to us, and they have arrived here for whatever reasons they have. But in the larger, in the consideration of the larger population, they are what we would perhaps at times call marginalized people by virtue of their coming in from elsewhere. There are also other people who are marginalized. There are people that are marginalized because of physical disabilities. There are people that are marginalized because of other things, circumstances that have come upon them, sometimes by their own doing, sometimes by the doing of other people, and they are marginalized. And then there are those people who are marginalized in some respect because of past experiences, things that have been done to them that have left them traumatized, and they have become marginalized for various reasons and in various ways. Sometimes financially, sometimes emotionally, socially, and they are those people who we would not consider mainstream in that respect. They become marginalized by virtue of various other things. And I'm deliberately not being very specific, but I think you get the idea that these people are to be found in a number of different situations which we encounter under a lot of different circumstances and conditions. And sometimes those people are treated very badly by some of the larger portions of the population, and they are not treated well. And I want to contrast the way these marginalized people are treated so much of the time by people who are in the distinct majority to how Christ treated the marginalized. And I think this is important for us to consider if we want to follow Christ, if we really desire to do what Christ did and to adopt the spirit that Christ had and to conduct ourselves in a manner that is more similar to Christ than less, then this is something that we need to consider. One of the comments that was made about Christ in his preaching was that it was the common people who heard him gladly. And the religious leaders speaking about those common people said, these people that don't know the law are cursed. They were very derogatory and despising of these people, and especially those who were particularly the marginalized people. And yet you find that Christ said that he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And in that reference in Luke 19, where he says the Son of Man's come to seek and to save that which was lost, that's the 10th verse of the 19th chapter of Luke. He's talking about Zacchaeus. Now, Zacchaeus was a publican. Zacchaeus was a person who was working for Rome, who was collecting taxes for them. And so now, by virtue of his own choices, he had become marginalized in that respect. He was doing something that the rest of the Israeli nation or the Israelite nation despised. He was working for the oppressors, and he was taking taxes and at times doing so dishonestly. So he was marginalized, and much of his marginalization in that case was the result of his own actions. He had made some choices that were, as far as that goes, not necessarily good choices, and so had thereby become marginalized because he was in fact preying on his own people. So, however, when he encountered Christ, his life changed. He had Christ into his house. He told Christ that any person's goods that he had taken, he would restore and that he would do the right thing. So it's very interesting in that respect that this man was the person to whom Christ referred when he said, "The Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." Now, in the 15th chapter, and this is worth reading, there of the Gospel of Luke, then drew near to him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, "This man receiveth sinners and eateth with them." And he spake this parable unto them, saying, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after that which is lost till he find it? And when he hath found it, he layeth it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he cometh home, he calleth together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, Rejoice with me, for I found my sheep which was lost. I say unto you that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than 99 just persons that need no repentance." So this is Christ's declaration of the fact that he will seek the marginalized. Who are the marginalized? Well, they're the one sheep, the 99 that are sort of going the right direction. Yes, he does save. However, he saves the marginalized. And he seeks the marginalized. And you see over and over in this, again in the scriptures, the instances of this. Prime example in John 3, he's talking to Nicodemus, who would be one of the larger group, right? But then in John 4, Nicodemus had come to see him. In John 4, after he had talked to Nicodemus in chapter 3, John 4, he seeks out a woman who was marginalized. Now, once again, was she marginalized because of choices that she had made? Yes. She had had 5 husbands. The man with whom she was living was not her husband. She was coming out to the well at Sychar in the middle of the day, which was an uncustomary time to go out. It was the hot part of the day. It was not the time of the day that typically women would come to the well. She was not keen on socializing with the other women. And so Christ, knowing that she would be there, sat down and had this conversation. And she was the first person to whom he revealed that he was Messiah. At least in the Gospel of John, there is this revelation. She's this first person, and she was marginalized by virtue of the fact that she was a Samaritan. That was really the racial part of the issue. And then also because she was morally involved in some things that were not good. So Christ sought her out. Very interesting that he did that. She was a marginalized person. Probably we would say socially marginalized, and marginalized socially by virtue of race and then by virtue of her moral condition. So Christ seeks her out. John 5, he seeks out the man at the pool of Bethesda. Of all the people that he could have picked, and there were a host of people there, he picks this one individual and he heals him. And he's had this paralytic condition for 38 years, and Christ keys on him. So Christ, first of all, does not disdain to minister to a congregation of one. That is the woman at the well or the man at the pool of Bethesda. But he will go and seek that person out who is the marginalized individual. We also find the account in the Gospels of the maniac of Gadara. No one more marginalized than this man. Lived in the tombs, naked, cutting himself, demon possessed. Very, very heavily marginalized individual. Christ seeks him out. So these are just a few examples. There are certainly more examples. And yet, I think these serve the purpose and go together with that passage in Luke, where it was the publicans and the sinners, the people who were seeking Christ out, the Pharisees, who were the religious elite people who were very self-righteous, considered themselves to be separatists, for so the name means, and they looked down on Christ and looked down on these people because they were, as far as they were concerned, irreligious, the great unwashed, if you want to call them that. We use that terminology out of literature. So these were the people to whom Christ gravitated. And if you even look at his disciples, the disciples that he chose were not the movers and the shakers in Israelite society. They were tradespeople. He himself, of all the things that he could have presented himself as, came as a ordinary working person in construction. Uh, that's what he was. He was a carpenter, more than likely working around the Sea of Galilee on the job sites from the age of 12 to the age of 30. And it was those people, those common, ordinary people, people that were what we would consider blue collar. Those were the people who gravitated to him. Even the soldiers, once again, blue collar profession. These people are all the kinds of people who were the most consistent and the widest part of the population that covered that followed Christ and that heard what he had to say and received him. The woman taken in adultery, John chapter 8, another example of Christ dealing with a marginalized person. And in all of these instances, we want to recognize that Christ was interested in these people, even if you consider in Matthew chapter 25, the great division between the sheep and the goats, between the goats that are on the left hand, the sheep on the right hand, and the criterion that he uses. I was sick. I was hungry and you fed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and I was in prison and you came to me and you visited me. And all these things that he cites, these are all people, if you look at his description of them, were people who would have been considered to be marginalized for various reasons. I was naked, you clothed me. I was hungry, you fed me. These are people that are marginalized by social conditions, marginalized by health issues, marginalized by being put in prison. Whether they were put in prison rightly or wrongly, they were there. And they were sick, and the people that Christ accepts were the people who actually visited those people and did them good as they were able to do them good. And so it's very interesting and important to me that we understand this because we can adopt the attitude that, well, those people are marginalized, those people are not the kind of people we want in our group. Years ago, I had the occasion for a number of years to speak to people who had various issues, neurodivergent type people, people that had been, or post traumatic people, people that had been treated very badly under various circumstances and conditions. And I had the occasion to help them and support them and talk with them consistently and would preach to them. And that's actually how this channel got started, was that we were when we couldn't get a building anymore, weren't able to rent a building anymore. We then went on to have this Where the Bush is Burning channel started, and that's for the benefit of those people who were in that circumstance and were marginalized in their own particular way. When I was relating to a minister of a church, his comment to me was, well, those kind of people need to go somewhere. Those kind of people need to go somewhere. And that's a very telling statement. It's a telling statement because what it says is, yeah, we don't want those people in our group, but somebody should minister to them. We don't want those people coming to us because they create too many issues. I had another minister a number of years ago say to me, well, we want people, but we really don't want their problems. Well, not the spirit of the thing, frankly. Not the spirit of the thing at all, not the spirit of Christ. Christ was very concerned and interested in the marginalized. He says he sets the solitary in families. So Christ is very interested in the marginalized, and he demonstrates it and says so and does things that demonstrate how keenly interested he is in these people who are not part of the mainstream. So the reason I say that to you is this today. First of all, if you are one of those people. Maybe you're a marginalized individual. Maybe you have various issues, various stripes and varieties. Maybe some of these things are your fault. Maybe some of the things are not your fault. These are things that were done to you. And somehow you become marginalized, maybe physically or mentally or spiritually or socially. Somehow you've been put on the outer margins. Understand, Christ is for you. Christ is for you. He is for you, and he is interested in you and your welfare and in ministering to you. And for those of you who are already in the body of Christ and you are an individual who perhaps struggles with this, understand Christ is for you. And for those of you who are keen to promote the personal work of Christ, here's where you can do it. Seek those who are out of the way. People need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to be listened to. So understand that they're all around you, and you may ask the Lord to show them to you so that you may minister to them. But Christ is interested in the marginalized, and so should we also be, with the intent of doing them good for Jesus' sake and pointing them to Christ. That's our conversation about Christ today. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate you listening and watching. If you would like our devotional, you may find it at hopeharbor.church. Hopeharbor.church. This video will appear at Substack. You may find it on Substack. You would like and subscribe if you would. That would be lovely if you would do that. We also will put another audio message this week, all being well, up at hopeharbor.church as well. Hope Harbor, all one word, .church. And by all means, if we can do you good, let us know, and we will try to encourage you in the things of God and understand that it doesn't matter what your marginalization is or what caused it. If we can help you in the things of God, we would love to do so and want to try to see and hear you where you are. So thank you for joining us today here at Where the Bush is Burning. Join us next week in the will of God as we come again to consider another conversation about Christ.